welcome to Live and New, your weekly pulse for live and new music. This week we'll update you on news of tours from Ozzy Osbourne, Santana and Alabama 3. We'll look at what is on sale this week for venues around the country, and we'll give you a rundown of the tours in action. Also what to download. We'll run through the best new music online and in stores. And joining us in the studio, Tanya Doko and Erwin Thomas will introduce the new band, She Said Yes. You're watching Live and New. In tour news this week, Ozzy Osbourne will return to Australia for an East Coast tour in March. He will play in Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane only, starting March 15 in Melbourne. Tickets go on sale on November 1. Alabama 3 will be in Australia next month. You know the band from the theme to the TV show The Sopranos. They'll play a couple of shows in Sydney and Melbourne, as well as one in Byron Bay. Santana will be back for his 4th Australian tour in February. The legendary guitarist will tour in support of the new album, Ultimate Santana. And guess what? Perth is getting this one. Divinals are back together. They announced the Reformation this week. Divinals will play some shows in December and release a new album next year. You know them for the hits Boys in Town, I Touch Myself and Ain't Gonna Eat Out My Heart Anymore. If you were slow on the uptake for Big Day Out tickets, you probably missed out on that. Sydney, Melbourne and also the Gold Coast shows have completely sold out. Tickets are still available for Auckland, Adelaide and Perth. However, head to the Big Day Out website, and to deter scalpers, a limited number of tickets will be sold for the shows. They'll be auctioned off each week for the next 10 weeks. It's not quite rock, but there is plenty of music in Monty Python's show, which is coming to Melbourne with Spam-A-Lot. The musical is based on the movie Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Previews start November 20 and the season begins on December 1. On tour this week, Silverchair and Powderfinger continue the Mammoth Across the Great Divide tour. They're in Wollongong this week. Former Soundgarden and Audioslave frontman Chris Cornell is split from the Linkin Park tour and he's down to his solo shows. He'll be playing Sydney and Melbourne solo this week, and I recommend that show. You'll get the best of Soundgarden, Audioslave, Temple of the Dog, as well as all of his solo stuff in the full 2-hour concert. And he also does a killer version of Michael Jackson's Billie Jean. A couple of Bens are on the road. Look out for Ben Lee and Ben Quiller doing separate shows in Sydney. Xavier Rudd is down in Tassie, and the Cat Empire are doing Perth. Also on tour at the moment is Darren Hayes, and get there early because you'll hear these guys, Tanya Doko and Erwin Thomas. They are She Said Yes. Welcome to you.
Thanks. Thanks, mate.
Tanya, you're the originator of this band and you recruited the wonderful Mr. Erwin Thomas. Tell us how that came about.
The one and the only.
Yeah.
Well, Erwin and I have been knocking around as mates, of course, for years and years. So it was kind of lonely being solo, and had a bunch of songs that were completely reinvented by the awesome David Norland, who is from LA. We flew him here in 2.5 weeks. You know, reinterpreted all these songs that I kind of brought over from my once solo record. And Erwin, of course, played all through the album, produced one of the songs as well with David. And, you know, here we are on tour. So it's been a long time coming, but it kind of feels like quick as well. Yeah.
Well, we'll talk a bit about your past lives later on. We should talk about the other member of the band, Carl Lewis.
Yes. Not to be confused with the runner.
Yeah, that's right. I almost had one of those metal blunks, basically, with both of them there.
Yeah.
But Carl has worked with Savage Garden as well. You're on tour with Darren at the moment. So that sounds like one big happy family with Darren and Carl and She Said Yes.
It's an interesting kind of a fit because, you know, a lot of the audience know Carl, they recognise Carl in some ways more than you and I.
That's
because
true.
our hair is different.
Well, that's right.
Considerably different.
And primarily they're all, you know, at the gig to see Darren's show, you know,
exactly.
which I guess really, you know, there is that connection, you know, from when he sold all those records.
Yeah, all those records.
Exactly.
It's awesome, man.
So we don't mind borrowing some of them.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I guess She Said Yes, a very, I guess, derivative in sound from, you know, if you go back to sort of a mid-'80s era of the Duran Durans and, you know, maybe Massive Attack, but then you bring it up to current sounds, you fit very nicely alongside acts like Goldfrapp, for instance.
Well, thank you.
Are they the sort of the benchmark sort of acts that you've
yes.
gone out to receive? Yeah?
Spot on, in fact.
Yeah.
In fact, every morning I'd pick David up on the way to the studio when we were making the record, and we would listen to those very records just to get into that right mindset. Throw in a bit of New Order, and yeah, I mean, they're the records that we were referencing sonically, and David's just a big electro head, but a great pop sensibility, and along with Erwin's, you know, awesome rockness, you get this kind of, I think, a really great marriage between rock and electro, so we call it Erocktro.
We'll go and search for erocktro.com as well.
Erocktro.com.
Let's talk about some of the music. The EP is out there, and one of the tracks on it, All My Fault, is probably the lead track. Quite an old track too, isn't it, Tanya?
Yeah, it's the one song that survived. Well, I mean, I actually recorded it for my solo record that never came out with BMG, and you know, love the song, and probably because this guy here helped create its wonderfulness, and it's really fun to do live. It's probably the rockiest we do live.
Yeah.
And I don't wanna break it off, but I can't stand to watch us tear ourselves apart when you're on my thoughts.
That was All My Fault, one of the tracks from the Tour Edition EP, She Said Yes. Tanya, Erwin, good to have you in.
Thanks.
We're going to talk about a few other tracks that you. One that isn't on the EP, but you're performing live, and actually opening the live set with is Love Bite. So,
Yes.
describe that one. A very interesting title.
Well, what can I say? Been bitten a few times, but you know, it's always good to draw on these things.
Once bitten, twice shy.
Unfortunately, no.
Once bitten, here we go again.
And
Ain't that the truth?
the one you've been closing the shows with, Pop Killer.
Yeah, it's great. It's been interesting to play these songs live and get feedback about, you know, what people think, you know, should be a single, etc. And I've got no attachment to any of them being singles as such, but Pop Killer is actually standing out as the most memorable, like instantly memorable.
It's researching really well.
It is, yeah. Exactly. It's cool.
But
Thank
it is,
you, Erwin Osterio.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's very nice to be here.
Let's have a little listen to a bit of Pop Killer.
You're a pop killer, you know thriller. You'll never get the better of me. Stop killing the vibe, a good feeling inside. Won't be giving in that easily.
And that was a bit of Pop Killer from She Said Yes, the Tour Edition EP out there at the moment. We're talking to Tanya and Erwin from She Said Yes. We'll be finding a bit more about the band in just a moment. And next up, we'll be looking at the new music that's out there to download this week on Live and New.